Mixing with Mic plugin of the week comes from Arturia. This is a new release. It's the Comp Diode-609, and that 609 will look very familiar. It's the 33609. There are not a lot of great emulations that I've heard outside of the universal audio realm for the 33609. There are a few out there. There's some very good ones. This one is great, very affordable. And when I loaded it up, I thought, all right, let me check it out. Let's see if this is a great option for people out there who maybe, don't want to invest in UA or maybe can't afford some of the more expensive companies that do emulations like Acoustica. But I don't know, very impressed by it, right? So this is a diode bridge compressor. The 33609 was released in the mid-'80s. It's kind of an interesting thing reading the manual from Arturia because there are a lot of things that that didn't line up with my memory that they're stating in there. And as I went back just to kind of double check myself and do some research, I actually, realized it's like, okay, there's some information that's not, or maybe just the way it's worded, I'm not understanding as clearly. But either way, this is a great unit. It was really an extension of the 2254, which is also a diode bridge compressor. There were many variations of the 2254, different versions of that, and then it morphed into another one, another couple of different versions in the late 70s and early 80s that were designed as the mix bus compressor. And this was the stereo rack-mounted external version of the diode bridge compressor. There's not a lot that are out there that use this basic design. I guess most notably, Chandler Limited, with some of their compressors kind of get into this. But it's a great sounding compressor, has, incredible warmth and grit. To me, this was like a great alternative as a mix bus compressor to the SSL bus compressor. And I think that kind of, where it fits those two, one would give you a warmer, richer sound, the Neve. One would give you a bit more, mid-range, presence and pump, which is the SSL compressor, both amazing. So the fundamental design here, this stereo unit, and this is the 33609C. It's interesting because one of the things they state is that it had the Mariner transformer, which was actually the C version, was the second version of this, which actually they got rid of the Mariner transformer, which was actually the same transformer that was used in the 1073. So, another interesting thing here. And what they've done is they've adapted some of the things. So they've, made it so that it has some flexibility that you normally didn't get, or you didn't get with the original unit. And I'll kind of go over those things. The signal flow is very simple. It actually starts with a compressor section and a limiter section, right? And the compressor section feeds into the limiter. This is a little bit unusual because usually the limiter would be there to catch like high peak stuff so that the compressor doesn't overwork, but that was never this design. And it sounds amazing. So, whatever, if it works, then why am I going to second guess it? So your basic controls: threshold, attack, recovery, makeup gain, pretty straightforward, and a ratio. They added in a 1-to-1 section here, so you can actually just run through it and just use the transformer if you're just looking for a little bit of that kind of sound. And honestly, it really sounds amazing. So, kudos to them for doing a great emulation. You have the basic in and out here. You have the limiter section here, which has a separate in and out, has its own threshold and recovery. So actually, the way that this ends up working is that you go through the settings here of the compressor. You have a makeup gain, so the output of that would feed the level into the limiter, but there's no gain stage after that, okay? And so here they've added in a channel 1 and channel 2 output gain levels because you can operate it, and this is one of the adapted things that they did. It's not just that you can operate it in dual mono, that was part of the original, but also that you could operate it in MS mode, right, as opposed to just in stereo. So that would allow you to link it. And so they have the parameter link or unlink, which you could put in there. I'm not sure why some of these things are tied together, but so be it. This is an output gain here for the whole unit. That way you could balance the whole thing out, so when you bypass it in and out, you can kind of get what's going on there. So They have all of that. One other thing that they added in here is the stepped controls feature. So the 33609 has stepped settings or discrete settings. So when you toggle through the different settings here, right, you get the, normal millisecond values that were part of the original unit. They have a separate fixed one, which just gives you the 5 millisecond attack time, the fastest attack time in the compressor section. And I'm not exactly sure why they put it that way as opposed, because it's effectively the same as this. I haven't been able to figure out what the difference is there because they claim it's basically the same. But okay, is what it is. The other thing that exists, let me just see. I'm sorry. So right, yeah. So we have the attack controls, but if you take this off, then this becomes variable, right? So in other words, you can operate outside of the step control. So if you want to work that way, you could keep it within the step settings that you have. And if you take this off, then it allows you to dial in, attack and release settings, and makeup gain and all of that sort of stuff that are settings that are in between the normal settings that you would get. And that just adds an extra level of flexibility while still giving you that 33609 sound. Let's see. Other things here. Wet dry control has a little lock feature for that if you like. And then a whole series of other stuff. It has an undo menu. So you could see an undo history of all the things that you've done to go back to a previous state. Nice little added feature there. There's a quick undo thing that's right here. This will actually undo and redo. So if you're doing stuff you could redo if you go back. This will show you how much CPU cycle it's taking up from your computer. So it gives you a percentage control that's right there. And then, yeah, that just shows the undo history there. On the top, there's a menu up here at the top that allows you to, to manage presets, import settings, export a preset, resize the window, so it gives you all the resize controls. You can open up a tutorials thing, so it'll actually run a tutorial right through the whole unit if you want to do it that way. Help menu will get you to the user manual, ask questions, and about just to find out what the version number is and all that sort of stuff. Aside from that, you just have presets. The advanced window here opens up a whole sidechain circuit. So there's a couple things that are really cool here. One, you have an external sidechain, which is not available on the UA version. I'm not sure if some of the others have it, which is great. That's a nice feature. There's also a look-ahead feature. So if you have that fast attack at 5 milliseconds here, this would allow you to compensate for that and basically make the compression and limiting instantaneous, right? And there's a separate in switch that makes that happen. So the look-ahead feature is a nice addition. And then they give you a 3-band EQ control for the sidechain. So you can monitor the sidechain, pop it in, and then go through. You got high pass, high shelf. I think this is set to 10K. I could be wrong about that. And then you have a mid-band parametric, fixed parametric that you use. So you could listen to it, dial it in the way you want, and then set your threshold accordingly, get everything to kind of work together. So you have a nice little bit there. The other thing is that you could actually drive the input. So they give you a separate control, which simultaneously lowers the output while raising the input to drive the input circuit. Or effectively, the way that it works is that you're actually driving in more saturation to the input, but it's not affecting the amount of gain reduction. So it's almost like you're driving the circuitry to get a bit more juice out of it or harmonic distortion out of the unit without really affecting what's going on with the gain reduction and everything. And that's kind of a really cool addition to it. Other than that, you have the on-off switch, just to, kind of bypass everything. I'm not sure how that differs necessarily from this. Usually those are fundamentally connected on that end. So let's listen to a little bit because, can only tolerate so much of me yapping away here. So let's go ahead and pump some audio through it and then just dial in some settings pretty quick. What I was thinking here, one option here, kind of a classic thing would be like a standard kind of pump and breathe kind of thing here. This is also something, because this is always a thing that annoys the crap out of me, where if you take the step controls off, we can adjust the gain for gain makeup. Because it all comes in 2 dB steps with the discrete settings, and sometimes that just it's just one of those annoying kind of aside kind of things. But here, let's check this out. See if I can do like a quick kind of pump and breathe type of thing here with the mix. My loop kind of went away. All right. So you get like a nice, kind of that kind of classic pump and breathe thing. This is sort of a very similar thing to like a classic SSL, way of working. The other way to kind of dial this in is just to kind of work with one of the two auto release settings, which I really love. The auto release settings are dual stage release, but they're sort of program dependent, so it will vary the attack and release time. And I'm sorry, it'll vary the release times, more or less. The attack time will kind of follow whatever you have set here. And so the auto release circuit, usually it's like what they would call like a broadcast setting. So it has an initial quick recovery, but then a slower secondary recovery. And part of that is to keep the gain from, recovering too quickly so you don't get any kind of pumping and breathing. And, so for broadcast radio, especially like talk radio or baseball games or things like that, that type of setting is very handy. And it actually works incredibly well and is very musical for things when you want to just kind of stabilize it, but still have some kind of breathing movement in it. So let's check that out. So the A1 setting has a little like slightly faster recovery overall. And the A2 is slightly slower, a little bit warmer sounding. I guess in my loop, I don't think I have the loop set up. All right, let's go back here. I think I kind of like the A1 setting here. No. Okay. I actually, now on second listen, I think I like the A2 setting. The one thing I could also do here is I can increase the attack. Let's just kind of do the look ahead here and go ahead and make it sort of instantaneous. I'll need to adjust the threshold here. So let's just see. There's like a nice warming kind of, gluing kind of factor in there, which I really love. Let me go back here for a second. Normally for this, I've always liked with the SSL kind of working with the 3 millisecond times, if I shave off 2 from 5 here, I'll end up with 3, if I still can do math, and let's check that out. Has a really great, like, warming kind of sound, and one of the things about this, like, working with it, if you increase the ratio, you'll get a warmer sound. Unfortunately, the one thing that they missed here that would have been great would have been doing like a whole ABCD. I'm trying to see if there was something in here. No, this is the whole preset search kind of thing. Let me cancel that out. All right, so I'll just kind of I'll wing it here, I guess, and kind of make it work. So if I go up here higher in ratio, like now this is fairly transparent. If I want to warm up the sound, I can go up like to 4:1 or 6:1 ratio. I'll have to change the threshold here. Okay, there we go. So there I was just being between the 2 different settings, so I could skip over multiple settings at the same time, and I like the 4:1 ratio better. It's a classic thing, especially for any kind of sound that, especially if something is kind of has a bit of harshness, like often when you do these sort of, like radio kind of effects where something is very mid-rangey or sounds a bit brittle or whatever, or a bit digital or harsh. This is just like a ridiculously amazing compressor for stuff like that, to warm it up, especially when you go to 4 or 6:1 ratio. Work with a faster attack time. You kind of cut the edge down, glue the sound together, and it all makes it a bit more digestible and easier. A term I would use, like listenable, I guess. There's also the limiter. I spend a lot less time with the limiter. It is handy for certain features, for many things, just kind of picking up stuff that sort of shoots through here, especially for using slower attack times. There's a fast attack and slow attack. It's a little bit faster. It goes to 2 milliseconds on the fast attack side, and 4 milliseconds, excuse me, on the slow attack side. And it does have a very quick recovery. You also have auto recovery settings, but with this also comes in handy for working with the mix control. Like if you want to do a little bit more of a parallel thing where you want to kind of squash everything. So let's do a little bit of that just to check that part of this out. Now I'll have to work the makeup gain here. So if I have like about 8 dB of gain reduction, let me just kind of pile that on over here. And now I can kind of mix that in with the wet-dry control. running this kind of parallel can be really great for like drum tracks, or you could just run this on a separate, parallel stem or something like that, so you could blend it in with the fader. And the output gain control is not, in other words, the dry signal is unaffected by this. It's only the wet signal level. So you go through the compressor stage, it has a makeup gain. That feeds into the limiter stage, and then the output of that feeds through these gain controls here, and then to the wet-dry control, so you have control over that. Plus, you can operate it, dual mono if you want a more width, a stereo effect. It has MS, which the original did not have, right? So you could run it as a mid-side processor. And all around, this is great. I'm really in love with this, and especially if you're not on the UA, this is easily compatible or comparable with that. In my mind, I haven't put them side by side, but for a purely native processor, this is really great. Arturia has a good collection of plugins. Not huge, they're mostly known for keyboards, hardware keyboards and synths, and then they also have software synths and all of that sort of stuff. But they have a ever-growing effects collection and some pretty cool things. A Dimension D, which is quite cool. There's not a lot of those that are out there. That's another weird one that not a lot of people do, or they don't make it look the same. And DBX165 is another really cool one. Not a lot of emulations of that. So really good stuff. Very impressed by this. Just love it. Oh, the one last thing here. Let's do a little bit of a drive. I'll take this limiter out here for a second. Put that back down to there we go. And it's this drive, just the input drive, just to kind of check that out, see what that's like. That actually, I really like that. It's subtle, I think the one thing that sometimes makes this a little confusing is that often the thing that drives me crazy the most is the aliasing artifacts that you get from a lot of emulations, especially the cheaper ones and stuff. And this one is very clean in that regard. Yeah, very impressed. Really, really dig this. This is a new favorite of mine. And that's the reason why I loaded it up and said, let me give this a test run. And as soon as I did it, after about 2 minutes, I thought this is a plugin of the week. Just got released yesterday, from at least from my email list anyway. And really great one, right? So there you have it. Arturia Comp DIODE-609. Great emulation of the Neve 33609C, which was released in the mid-'80s. Classic compressor, studio compressor, rack mount plugin, or plugin hardware piece, emulated in plugin form. A great deal from Arturia, and worthy of a plugin of the week.